sure if you get like a little, hey, this session is being recorded, but just so you know. So these sessions are recorded because we tried to place them for all those folks who weren't able to join us today for whatever reason. These Zoom meetings are voluntary, they're optional. I do feel that they help. I'm going to try to see if we can leave a nice buffer for Q&A towards the end. So welcome to BEOI. This is our spring 2022 first session. We were trying to see if we could have a second session begin in March, but it seems like there were only 2 folks enrolled. And so what we might do is sort of layer that instead of it being another BEOI session. The March session, as I understand it, as of today's meeting, will becoming an effective hybrid instructor. And so just very quickly, all that means is that the focus of that session and training is on how to have the hybrid loop, in essence. That means that you have all of your content in Canvas, but you do meet with your students depending on however you feel that that would best serve your students and you. And so those in the classroom meetings could be monthly, once a week, twice a week, depends on your course and how that will work. The one thing that we were mentioning at the top of this when we're chatting was that whatever you decide to do, those hybrid courses and meetings, if they're not voluntary and optional, they're required, need to be in the schedule of classes. And so, for example, if you're teaching in the fall semester, I understand that already that schedule is going out so that it can be in the schedule of classes. So that's just something to keep in mind. And I do recommend taking the hybrid, the BEHI, because there's just so much more information there that I think can help. And knowing how to do that actually helps with the regular asynchronous fully online class, which I already confessed earlier is my favorite modality. My favorite modality is to have everything for my students in Canvas and then have optional drop-in meetings and sometimes scheduled one-on-ones. And so there are things that we can do, tools that we can use within Canvas so that students can sign up for appointments if you want, or so that you can create just an open room. And you can create open rooms for Zoom just so that they can meet as groups. So there are a lot of things that we can do with that. BOI right now doesn't have a section dedicated to hybrid or synchronous courses or synchronous teaching. So I'm going to kind of throw it in there little by little. And if anybody's really interested in that, then please reach out and then we can dive into that a little bit more. You'll notice that we use the home page as the landing page. There are many different ways that you can set up your own course. You've probably noticed that you can set it up so students just go to the modules, right? And so when they hit that link that's to your page, to your course, what they see instead of a home page is just a list, right? And so that would be a list of all of your modules and the items therein. We do recommend that whatever pages or assignments that you have live within the modules list. So you can think of each module as being a bookshelf. And the bookshelf will contain one bookend, that's the orientation, welcome, right? And objectives for that module, including the orientation and welcome module would have objectives for that. And then the end of that bookshelf would be some sort of conclusion, summary, or wrap up. A lot of faculty like to congratulate students and then say, hey, these are the things you've accomplished, right? For my wrap up, I have an end of week discussion. That's my wrap up. And within that, I have, to dig a little deeper. So I have links towards resources to help them explore a little bit more. Or sometimes I have resources that are foundational, maybe just to clear up a concept or something. So that's how I wrap up my module. And everybody finds their own thing that works for their students. Other things on the welcome, you'll notice that we set up with the recent announcements to be on the top here. If you ever get an announcement that gets notified and sent directly to your email or your text or whatever, or here, that sounds a little bit bizarre, it might mean that I set up these weekly announcements to go up, but sometimes I forget to double check and edit out any typos or anything that says, if anything in there says happy summer, And you know that Monica goofed a little bit because I didn't go in and it's probably in there somewhere. And I do recycle a lot of my announcements, so I probably forgot to either take that out or something. So thank you for your patience on that. What other thing will you find on your homepage? You will find on this homepage, you will find a to-do list with the assignments that are coming up. Now, the due dates are a little bit weird, even for my taste, because I think some of the due dates give you the due date for the initial post discussion, whereas I think later on those due dates are giving you the due date for the reply already. So that can be confusing, and so I need to double check those again, or then just maybe see what's good for you, what works for you. Do you prefer to have a due date that reminds you to start that discussion? Or would you rather have a due date that reminds you to come back and post the reply? So, and I will maybe when we go into breakouts, maybe you guys can ask that question, then come back and then share what was the preference. And why that? Because right now, Canvas and Structure is trying to figure out how to give us the whole to date system for the discussions. You probably all noticed already that discussions have one due date, right? In my courses, I have the due date and then I use the until date as the close date. So I'll give you an example. For the courses where I have students instead of colleagues, I have the Wednesday, my discussion opens. The Thursday is when the posts are due. I have both post and reply due on Thursday night, right? But then what I do is I leave a 24-hour late grace period. So that means that I use the until date and the discussions then close on Friday. And yes, it does sound a little draconian, right? And you probably already guessed I teach political science. So I am Dictator Monica often in Canvas courses. And so the thing is that for discussions, in my mind's eye, they're as if we're all sitting at a cafe, right? And we're talking about the topics of the week, the readings, the things that have come up in the real world, right, in the news. And so it doesn't help my group, as I see it, to have somebody come in a week later trying to chime into something that already passed, that we all discussed and laughed about or cried about or whatever it is. So that's why I have the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Now for everything else, all the other assignments, they all have 24-hour late grace periods. I don't take off points. And this way I can be magnanimous, right? Automatically. Meaning if student says, hey, I lost my whatever, I'm like, hey, no worries. Just go ahead and turn it in before the until date. That's your extension. So I automatically have built-in extensions into my course design, and that's my way of trying to meet with equity to make sure that I'm teaching each student to however they operate best. Now I do let them know, yes, you will get a red stamp that says late because the work was late. It was late, but no points were taken off and I still accepted your work, right? But let that be a little reminder that maybe some adjustments need to be made if you look back and you see that you've consistently turned in late work. So I try to have or incorporate teachable moments that are not going to hurt their grade or their score. All right, so that's on the to-do list for your own practice course, and I can see thumbs up if you will, if you've already accepted your practice BEOI shell. It would have been blank, completely blank, right? And it will look, well, it won't look like this. It actually has two blank icons right here. Yeah, okay. All right, excellent. So I'm gonna let those thumbs up go down. Anybody not get or don't know where to find their practice shell? Let's see. Okay. All right. So Dea, you have found your practice shell? Not yet. All right. So I think, and I'm going to make a note here. The reason you might not have it yet is what? I don't create those, so those get created at the district level, and it might just be an administrative thing. But remind me, and let's touch base because those practice shells are very important. What they do is that they create a space for you to create and play and test out things. How does this work? How does this not work? Without affecting any real students. And we know that we can't really change anything that we already taught, right? Those courses are kind of sealed. And so we can't change any of that. So it does help. I love getting practice courses. And, I think one of my confessions is that sometimes I take trainings just so I can get a free practice course. And then if anyone is designing a lot of courses and needs a practice course that's not attached to a specific district, then please reach out, because then I can help you access a Canvas account where you can create as many courses as you want, right? They're not going to have the bells and whistles of the different colleges, right? But they will give you space to create pretty much everything that you have here. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and go into our agenda. And so it is an hour long, but I'm happy to spend a little bit of time after 7 if you have a couple of questions or tidying up stuff. Most of our agenda will have the same thing. Now it does have a bare link. I point this out because in terms of accessibility, we're not supposed to have links that have the URL showing. And the reason for that is any student who's visually impaired and uses his screen reader the reader would read that twice. https://4cd. And so we've been trained to just make these hyperlinks. And so the reason it's here in the agenda is that, well, it's not in Canvas, right? But part of it is because a lot of folks who are savvy to how these links work, there might be a J missing here, which means that this link wouldn't work, but you could go ahead and take a look at these numbers, and that would be the meeting ID. So you could go into zoom.us and then plug in those numbers into that little box that asks for a meeting ID and be able to join that way. And so that's why we've left them here like this. Although I have to tell you, we get used to certain things, so whenever I see a link like that, I call them bare links, it kind of is a little disturbing to me. But anyway, I'll mention again for those folks who entered that my name's Monica Landeros. I come to you from Contra Costa College. That's my main home college. I do teach at different colleges throughout the Bay Area within my little driving radius. My longest commute is 2.5 hours, 3 hours back on a Friday. The back commute is pretty horrible. But I love podcasts, and I use Libby, which is this free audio book, and that's what I use it for. And so that I use that as me time to just listen to things, right? And so that's what I try to do with that commute time. So I feel really bad saying this because COVID has been a nightmare for so many people, and kind of crazy. Yeah, Libby is the best, isn't it, Caitlin? I just love it. My silver lining in all of this is that I was already an online teacher, but I had many face-to-face classes in the classroom. And what this has enabled me to do is to be able to participate in more committees and to do more work. I know people normally are like, what? More work? But why? Many times I wanted to go to meetings and I couldn't because I was in a classroom and the meetings were during the classroom time. So that was part of it. Others was that I was just not able to get from campus 1 to campus 2. And so that was also hindering that. The other silver lining is when I realized my children were not doing well in their remote emergency learning, I packed them up and I took them to Mexico with me. So we spent the better part of the first months of COVID, almost 5 of them, 6 months, out in Mexico. I rented a house as my office. I had rooms for them to work with their laptops and their systems and their Zoom meetings also. And so that I was just a scream away. So I could jump over there and run and troubleshoot their meetings and all of that insanity. But they did far better. And we were able to walk outside. We were able to go swimming. There was so much that we were able to do. And folks were a lot more conscientious about covering and keeping their distance. And so it was a safer environment for my children. And I have to say that I never would have been able to do that if I didn't feel confident in online teaching, and that my students would still get everything that they would get if they got to see me in a classroom, twice a week. All right, so that's a little bit about me. We've already gone a little bit over the course, the homepage. There is an orientation quiz that's due on Wednesday. The meet and greet, thank you so much. I mean, you've been in there, you're already participating. It's really nice. These discussions really are the heart of the course of BEOI. We don't want anybody to feel like they're just working out there by themselves. So please feel free to reach out to me. If you get a partnership here in the course, please do meet up and troubleshoot things together. Reach out to me if things are just flat out crazy, don't make sense. We're going to go over some of the how to set your navigation links, the orientation module with the content. You've already looked at the home page, so we can take a look at creating that as a home page. You have a create a welcome letter assignment. I'm going to take a look at the calendar and sort of the grading expectations. For the most part, people who fully participate in this course pass without any issue. They get the percentage points that they need. This course is attached to a stipend, and so the stipend does require an 80% completion rate, if you will. It's always something that we toy with the team, the design team, that we would like it to be like 0 points. We want to be UC Santa Cruz. And so, but because there's money attached, then we have to have something that's measurable, right? And so, at least right now, that's how we think of things, and we think of them in percentage and completion percentages. So you will, how long does it take? Oh God, it could take up to 3 months. Apologies right now, we're trying to streamline that process, but it could take up to 3 months to get your stipend for participation and completion of this course, and also to get your certificate, what we call a badge, and that just pretty much congratulates you. But it's something that you can also put down on your CV, and it's something that is recognized. This course is recognized by many of the community colleges in case you teach at a different district. And we're going to try to have a little breakout session where we're basically, I think, two groups discussing these things, like what is your experience with online instructor and Canvas. What do you hope to learn in this training? That really helps me so that I can try to bring that. I can't change the course a whole lot, right? But I can bring in some sessions that might touch specific things that you'd like to touch on. What are your concerns around online instruction? Definitely would help us. And if you do plan to incorporate any synchronous meetings, Zoom or hybrid in-class live sessions, that would help me know as well so that I can try to bring in some of those things. All right, now I know that we said that here we would have like introduction of you all individually, but what I'm hoping we can do to streamline maybe this session is that we have those introductions within the groups when we break out, because I will definitely get to know you. But I want to make sure that you all know each other, because I think that it does help later on to be able to reach out to a specific person. All right, so I'm going to pause right now and stop share just so I can see you all, in case anybody has a question. So Daya, I know that we're going to have to get your practice shell. Anybody else? Yes, you can go ahead and unmute. Yes, can you do that on your own, or do I need to do it for you? Here, let me see here. I think that you can unmute yourself. Can you, Daya? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where would I get the practice shelf? Where does that come from?
It's district, so the district creates it for you, and it would pop up the way this one did. So when you go into Canvas, it will pop up with a little accept green button, and it will have your name, some sort of, so either D Hill or something like that.
Okay.
Where else does it come through? I think it comes also in through your Outlook account.
Yeah.
So you'll get an email that asks you, that says something like you have been invited to participate in this course. And so you both, I mean, all of you have two roles. In the BEOI training course, that's all filled out and everything, you are student. That's your role as student. So you'll notice you can't edit pages or anything like that. But then your practice shell, your role is teacher. So as your teacher role, you can do everything that you want to do. And the other thing that you'll notice if you go to the people tab is that I will be there. I will be attached to your practice shell, because that way when you send assignments that have the link, I click on the link on my end and it just takes me into your course. Sometimes I have to pause a little bit, I have to accept first. I have right now, if you were to see my dashboard, it has it has a big old long list of courses for me to accept. And so I start to accept them. I accepted a bunch of them already, but I start to accept them as folks start to submit work. Then I'll go ahead and accept them. So great question. Any other questions on practice shells or BEOI? No? Okay. Let me go ahead and share screen again. All right. So I'm going to go right now because I have this open. I just want to make sure I show you the calendar. So the calendar system for Canvas is really great. I have to say I do use it all the time. Sometimes I do know what students need to do. I have a newly minted teenager who's sitting right behind me, and I'm not sure what kind of homework it is that he's doing that makes him laugh all the time. So I'm guessing it might not be homework. I'm gonna have to work on my detective skills, huh? Anyways, apologies for that. You'll notice a couple of things. One of them is that the calendar on the right hand side with the colors, those are the colors that you would enable to then see the assignments. So for example, here, if I want to see my teaching course, I would click on that blue and then you see that a bunch of assignments do come up. You'll also notice that I set up my assignments to be due Monday through Thursday and not Friday. And that's intentional because Friday is the 24-hour late grace period. But for this, I don't need to see all of that because it might make me start to hyperventilate. I think about everything I have to grade. But you will see that there are other things here. That the becoming, right here, the hybrid course that I taught over the winter, you'll notice there aren't any more of these blue ones because we just wrapped up, right? But if I go back, then you can start to see some. Oh God, see, I had palpitations as I did this. So that I'm probably going to get rid of that also, so I don't have to see it on my calendar here. Other things that you will notice, if for example I created these sort of drop-in, and these are for DEPD, that's over at Contra Costa. We have a shell where we have trainings and all of that, and I think every one of the sister colleges has something like this. And so what I do is that I create these drop-ins, and it means that my colleagues can go in and they can sign up for a slot. And so this is something that we can do with students. If we don't want them all in there, we can create these appointment drop-ins. The other thing is that you can really manipulate it so that one particular student can't take more than 3 slots, for example, because you might get someone who's very eager, which is wonderful to see, right? Who might go in as soon as they get that notification and then take up all the slots that you offered for that week or for that month, right? And so that there's that way to limit that. The other one is that you can limit how many folks can be in that particular session. So if you think, okay, well, having 2 people is good because then whatever one brings up helps me with the other person if they didn't think of that question, right? So sometimes 2 is good, and they can team up and come in together if they know each other, or it might just be a nice way to meet somebody. So this is something that can happen. They leave comments here if they have. Sometimes I'll say, please let me know what specifically you would like to talk about. For you all also, if there's something you want to talk about, like Canvas Studio, how do I get a YouTube video to go into Canvas Studio and be captioned? That's going to take a little bit of setup for me, so I'd have to probably set up my tabs so that when you meet with me, I'm not wasting time waiting for my browser to load a tab so I can show you something. So that helps also. And then also I can leave comments for them. You'll notice that here in the location, this is not a clickable link, right? So what I do is that I include the link that is a hyperlink within the details of the description. All right, so that's for appointments, and I'm happy to go over any of this later on if you really want to know how to do that. I might even have a video already on where to click and how to do that. All right. So I just want to make sure I showed you that. The other is that later on in our shell, there's a link that I relinked, but I'm not sure that all of you will be able to access that link. And it's to the Comet Support Hub. So each of our colleges has a support for students kind of page. Some of it is a website, maybe like a Canvas shell. Um, and so I wasn't sure that you all were going to be able to take a look at this. And so I want to make sure that you can see how Contra Costa has set this up, sort of welcoming. They've used a lot of colors. These colors happen to be our secondary colors. And so they've used that and put links to the different um, services that we have. Yes, Marianne.
I noticed that my Canvas shell, BEOI shell, doesn't have Net Tutor or DSS or the library, things that I typically put in my DVC classes.
All right, so let's see. Some of the things that you can do is, and I should have brought up my own course now that I'm thinking about it. Let me see, do I even have my own course up here somewhere? No, I don't. I don't have my own course. Well, I'll start my course up and see if that maybe by the time we finish talking, we can get in there, okay? Because sometimes it just takes so long to get into our courses, right? I mean, you can see this. So one of the things that can happen is that all of your shells will come with the minimal, what is most appropriate across the district, right? So there are some folks who use, like Contra Costa uses, oh, what the heck is it called? It's called, what's it called? Do we even have it over here? And we don't even have it. Pronto. So Contra Costa uses Pronto a lot. And so it's something that automatically pops up for folks at Contra Costa, but it might not at DVC, for example. And so there are different things that are specific to your college that might not have been part of everybody's thing. And so they might not have included that there. Let me see. Can you see how long this is taking? So we will come back up to this so you can see that. But what I was, see, this is what I was saying. In terms of the accept. Yes, a little bit insane, but that's okay. So I will show you my own course just so you can see what I mean. Within my own course, if I wanted to enable NetTutor, for example, and it's something that my college does support, then I would go into settings, which is in the course navigation menu. I would scroll all the way to the bottom, click on settings, and then here there are two things I can do. I can either click on navigation and check to see if NetTutor exists. And so let me see, as I'm squirming with my eyes, I can't see. Oh, there it is. So you'll notice that NetTutor does exist for me here. I just don't have it enabled. That means that my students can't see it and I don't see it in my course navigation menu. But all I have to do is go to the three dots, the more options, they call it the shish kebab also, click on that and then click enable. And whatever I enable will go to the bottom of that first table in navigation. The first table is everything that your students can see, right? The second table down here is what they can't see, which is hidden. You'll notice for me that's assignments, pages, files, outcomes, collaborations, quizzes, announcements, discussions. I don't let any of my students see any of that. Heck, I don't even let them see grades, the grades tab, until the third week of class, right? Because what they do is they decide to jump straight to grades, and then they miss out all the instruction that I've given them in the modules and the content pages. And then I would just scroll to the bottom and I would click save. And let's see how many my own students I don't confuse with that. Just by doing that. And so then what that means is that for my students, if I went to student view to see what it is that they could see, which is the button on the top right hand corner that says student view and has a little pair of glasses, we know because it has a magenta border around, which our eyes do get used to. So if you're ever clicking around and you can't edit anything, it's because you accidentally stayed in student view. But now for my students, you can see here in the course navigation menu what they can access. The home, the module, syllabus, people, the help Q&R. Now that Q&A link is a link to my Q&A discussion. But what I've done is that I do have it in the welcome module, but I've also decided to place it right here in the course navigation so that it's easy for my students to access whenever they want to. Same with the virtual office hours. They can just go directly there and link it. And if you're interested in knowing how to create links here for yourself, let me know, and I'm happy to do a quick workshop on that. Also, the CCC library, Office 365, because they need to use Word. Now we're moving into week 3, so now they can see the grades. They also have Microsoft Teams. That's for them. That's not for me. I don't require any of that. But they do have a link to the Wellness Center and to NetTutor now, which they didn't have before that. The other thing that I have here is I have a link to the Comet Support Hub, which is this same hub over here. That's the same Wellness Center hub. All right, so I don't know, did that answer the question, Marianne?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Oh, okay. All right, and then also reach out if you still can't make it work for you. All right, and it's okay because this is a practice shell. There aren't any real students in it. You just probably have to put a page holder within your maybe orientation module that says something like NetTutor explanation and a note for yourself, activate in real course or something like that, so that you can make a note of that. All right, so that's that. So the other thing that we were going to talk about is the modules. I haven't decided if I'm going to let this go or not. Right now, the way BEOI is created, there's a different home page for every week. To me, that's a little crazy making. I don't know if it's just I don't have the wherewithal to think about all those details and relinking everything and making sure everything's accessible and all the images show and all of that. So I'll see if I can manage that. If I can't, no matter what, this may look a little bit different, but all you have to do is click on the Start Here button at the bottom and it should take you to the modules. Now the home page, you will see examples of different home pages. Follow what your heart wants to do, right? This should be student-centered, so it should have information on contact. If you have Zoom drop-in office hours, that information should be there. A quick overview of the course and welcome. Some sort of banner. You can have your image or if you want. The other thing is that the Start Here button, this is always where we don't all agree. All of the district team designers don't agree on whether it has to be the absolute last button on the page or if it's okay if it's somewhere over here, right, towards the start. One of the rules of thumb for your home page is that it really shouldn't be more than one scroll down. Students shouldn't be scrolling and scrolling to read the whole home page. It should really be nice and tidy and compact. So all right, we're going to click on here and that will take us to denied. Now, why is this access denied? Because I'm still in student view. So let me leave student view. And why? Because Monica as student has not clicked through everything. That's why. So you'll see here that we set up our Start Here course orientation and introductions. So we have that as our welcome module. And then the second module is not week 2 module, sadly. The second module is still week 1 module, and it's pretty hefty. So what's my recommendation to get through this? If you start to click and you find that it links to articles, and the article is like a 20-page article, do not fret. Okay, don't be like me and think that you have to read every line in that 20-page article and take notes on it. You do not need to do that for this course. But what we do want you to do is maybe open it, bookmark it, or keep a page with the links that you can access later on. And then when you have time, you can go back and read that or whatever that is, right? Our videos, we try to keep them compact. Some of them might be a little bit longer, and we ask you to jump to minute 33, just because we want you to get to what we want to show you. So this can be daunting. And one of the great things about taking training courses is that we get to feel what our students feel. When they jump into a course and they're like, what? She wants me to open all of this? So it can be daunting. The other thing to note is that the courses have been set up, and I'm moving my cursor to the far right to the 3 dots, the more option dots, and I'm clicking on the edit link, which is the very first option there. And what I'm showing you here is just that many of you took advantage of the pre-course soft access to the course. And that was great because that meant that you took advantage of the weekend to do a lot of the assignments. Actually, some of you are done. You've done all of them, posted, replied, the whole thing. So that's great. And that's because when I created this, I didn't lock the module. I figured as soon as folks can come in, even if we're not officially open, let them have at it. I don't want to limit people that way because the discussion is still going to be open until Sunday anyway, right? But the other thing to notice is that there is a list of action items, if you will. These should represent every single item within the module list. Items are pages, mostly they contain content or instruction or videos, both created and curated. They contain assignments. Normally assignments, unless they're peer reviewed or group assignments, are sort of student to teacher, right? Nobody else really gets to see those. There are also discussions. Those are where people are sharing information. The discussions can be the whole class, all 45 if you have 45, or they can be split up in groups. And if you want to take a closer look at groups and how to split those up, I'm happy to do a workshop on that as well. And then there are quizzes. So the quizzes also, most of the times these are, touch base with each other, make sure that there's some common words, terminology that are understood, clarification sometimes. Sometimes it's going back to foundational information. So unless you're in STEM, most of our courses don't have quizzes that are heavily weighted, meaning that in mine, for example, and you do it however you want to do it, right? But in mine, I already understand that my students are going to use open notes, open books, and I encourage that. My quizzes are per chapter. They're based on each week and chapters. There are 10 questions, multiple choice or true false, and they get 3 attempts at them. I am always kind of surprised that students in the discussion mention how proud they are that they got 10 out of 10 on the first try, on their first attempt. And so it gives them, I don't know, it gives them sort of kudos. Me, I see it as homework. I just want them to go over the terminology, right? But they feel really good about getting those points and being able to do it on the first try or the second try. Some say, it took me 3 tries, but I got 100% on the Arab World's Map quiz. And so that's what I like to see, that they're sharing and taking advantage of the way I've set up and designed the course. Now, for us all here, you'll notice that these are not all view. View means that you click, you hit next, right? Some of these are submit the assignment. Some are, let me contribute to the page. And then we don't have these in this particular module, but some might be mark as done. The mark as done are normally for pages that have content that we're like, no, we need to make sure that they saw this page, right? And so we'll ask you to open that page and then to mark as done. I think it's a little babysitting personally to have things marked as done, but I will have them on the to-do list. So for example, my course policies or course communication, I might click on that page and make it so that it appears on my students' to-do list. I was in a meeting last week, Wednesday, where one of my colleagues said that they get rid of the to-do list for their students. They don't want students to see what's coming up or to do. They want students to go to the modules and to open each one. So that the reason I mention this is that you may find yourself, and let me see if I was being dictatorial, mini dictatorial. So here, for example, you notice there's a prerequisite. The prerequisite for this module is that you won't be able to open it unless you first open everything in the Start Here orientation module. Once you've opened everything and contributed or submitted, then you'll be able to then access everything in this first content module. So I'm going to pause right now. I see that there's a question in the chat. You create to-do lists just so you can mark them as done. Yes. So I think that works well. Sometimes it's nice creating these, even if, like in my case, they're all just view for my students. They see the check mark, right? And so then later on, when they're not sure about, oh, what's your late policy? I'm like, well, you did open the page on grades and late policy. Like, now maybe you need to go back and actually read it. Except nicer. I'm really saccharine actually with my students. But see, so part of that is that. And so when I have a student who's stuck and can't unlock a new module, I tell them, I don't unlock those for you. You unlock them for yourself by going through everything that's already been presented and designed for you. And so far it does work, knock on wood, because I just said that. Now I'm going to get 10 students who are still, why am I unlocked? So you just never know. But any other questions in terms of the navigation? It is draconian. You do have to open, contribute, and everything before you can go to the next module. We have due dates? To the best of my memory, we don't have close dates yet on that. Let me see. How do you turn the, you know what? Let me write that down because I am not sure. So, Caitlin, how do we turn off the to-do list? I'm going to look that up and I'll send you information. If more people are interested in how you turn off the to-do list, then I'll put it in an announcement. May I see a thumbs up if more people are interested in knowing how to turn off the to-do list thingy? No? Okay. So I'll just send it to you, Kate. Oh, Chantal. Okay. So maybe it is something that needs to be in an announcement. Just in case, right? Let's see. Anything else here? My students never read my instructional. They hardly read mine either. So it's not until like week 3 that some student posts that, oh yes, the lecture videos were really helpful. They helped me get 100% on my quiz. Then students start to go back and say, oh, maybe that's something I should really take a look at. How do we turn it off for students? Yeah, so it would be turning it off for students. The to-do list would be to turn off for students. So that's something I need to do a little research on. I'm sure that I could poke around and find out. But sometimes I just go to YouTube. Either Canvas guides, how do I turn off the to-do list? Or, somebody probably figured out how to do it and decided to share that. So I use YouTube a lot to figure out some of these little Canvas things. And also the Canvas guides are wonderful, so they really help. All right, so now that we've explained that, I think we're going to go ahead and get into our breakout groups. And what I'll do is I'll post, which I should have done before. Let me go ahead and share. Because I think you do have access to that. But just in case, let me go ahead and move this down. Let me see if I can get that. Why isn't it showing it? Oh, there it is. Probably because I had to zoom in. I'm becoming blind. Let's see here. Maybe that's why I'm all into accessibility. What do you think? Because I'm starting to have to deal with it now. I'm going to put that in the chat because right there are the questions at the bottom, right? And so as we go into our breakout rooms, what I want you to do is take a look at those 4 questions at the bottom and then just freely share. I'm hoping that somebody will volunteer at the end to come in and just share back some of the concerns or some of the things that came up. All right, so 2 breakout rooms, and let me go ahead and create those and open all rooms. And we don't have a whole lot of time. We'll try to do a couple of minutes in there, okay? All right. Let's see. Okay. All right. Daya, were you able to see it? There you go. It's probably somewhere on the top that asks you to join. I don't know if it's there. There you go. And so we're going to go on here. All right. Welcome back. We're going to resume recording. Now you probably noticed, because you're all experienced already with Zoom, forced being experienced in it, right? That when we have breakout rooms, the breakout rooms don't record, right? And so that's something that I think that Zoom can work a little bit on, so that we can then have the main recording and then the mini recording. So what I did was that I just paused the recording while we were in our breakout rooms. So let me just close this. And yes, I can see the little red dot. So it is recording now. So who would like to share back with us? Any comments, concerns, anything at all?
I guess I can speak for our group.
All right, great.
Um, I think we basically have the easiest way to summarize it is we have the spectrum. We have no experience through super experienced. So good luck with that, Monica.
Oh, no.
So no, I mean, I think we all are in the same place. So essentially, even though we have different skill levels with Canvas, I think it's about trying to figure out how do we best serve our students through this system. I mean, that's probably the easiest summary.
All right, that's wonderful. That's great. And no worries. Please, if this is the first time you ever take a look at Canvas, uh, please reach out. I'm so happy to just go through and break things down and go slower. I admit that sometimes during our sessions, our live sessions together, I have to rush through a lot of things, but I'm always happy to break that down later or in a one-on-one. So please reach out. All right, and how about, so that grant, that was Team Wadea, right?
Yeah, that was group one.
Okay, anyone in group 2? As I look around, I'm guessing it was a lot of the same, right? Wide spectrum of learners, experiences teaching online. Maybe, did a fear come up? Anything that was a fear? Like, I still have those sort of my classes going live nightmares. You know, it's not walking into the classroom naked anymore. Oh, it used to be taking my kid to class and losing them somewhere. Those those used to be my nightmares before. You know, now it's more like I forgot to publish my course and I wake up and there are 50 messages in my inbox. Those are now my nightmares. But you can see my inbox has 2, right? All right, so that's all right. We'll just go ahead and continue. What I want to do is share with you just, this is a live course and sort of my homepage. My homepage has very similar things. It has the welcome message and the announcement. It also has a first interview, so I share with students clips that I find and give them spaces to develop extra credits or to research further and write a critical analysis if they want. The way I control the announcements on the homepage is through the settings. The settings in our course navigation menu is the magical place where a lot of things get arranged, fixed, set, right? So for example, this is the first tab in the settings menu. It's the course details. If I scroll down to the bottom, there are a couple of things to make note of. The start here and the end date. So for here, the start here, I opened my course a full week before it began. I sent the welcome email letter earlier than that to let them know it was going to open for this sort of soft opening in case they wanted to explore. And so I let them go through, you know, the orientation module and the first content module so that they can get adjusted. It also helps because in that way, I don't really have a lot of students who are clueless the first official day, right? I let them submit work, but it's not a requirement, right? They don't have to do anything they don't want to. And then what do? I do not restrict them the first before start date. Also because I have what they call liquid syllabus, I make my syllabus available to the public so that any students, it helps me in recruiting, you know, so I can send out the syllabus and they can take a look at that. And the way I make that a liquid syllabus or a public syllabus is that I click here under course, I click on the customize button. And once I click on the customize button, then the syllabus indicator comes up and then I change this to make it public. If I didn't want the public to see this, then I could change this to make this course. So maybe right now, because we already started our course, maybe I don't want anybody else taking a look at my syllabus, right? And so I'll just make this course specific. Only the people in my course can see my syllabus right now. The format is online. And then there's a tiny little link way at the bottom here. It's the more options link. Why they don't make that bigger, I don't know. And so here what I manipulate is the show recent announcements on course homepage. And I click this for 2. The first week of class is just 1. It's just a welcome letter and I leave it there, right? You'll notice I don't have announcements as a tab that they can click through over here in the course navigation menu because I want the announcements to be a little bit the way they are in live classes. I walk in, good morning, and then I make an announcement and that's it. Whoever took note on that announcement has the announcement information. Whoever didn't, oh well, right? It's nothing that's going to kill them, right? To not have that information. And then that way I think that they're a little bit more on their toes, that when they get something from me, that it's not just going to be there forever. Not only that, when I give extra credits, it might be, okay, so Rita Moreno is going to speak in Santa Clara University, da da da, right? I've got 2 free tickets. And so then we go out there a month later. If I had my announcements available, someone's going to ask me, how can I get the free tickets to the Rita Moreno talk? And that kind of thing just drives me bonkers now, because I've just been teaching too long, I think. So that's why I want things to be kind of moving along. Let students attach files to discussion. Yep. Let students create discussion topics. Nope. Dictator Monica, right? Let students edit and delete their own discussions. Yes. Now I do this because sometimes they do make mistakes, or sometimes they write something really inappropriate, right? And so I jump in and tell them, hey, can you please edit this? Let students organize their own groups. Nope. Dictator Monica. High totals in student grade summary. Let them see it. High grades distribution graphs from students. Yep. Because my students are very competitive, and they have no reason to be with each other. Because they can all get an A, and I want to foster sort of a learning community where they're sharing and helping each other, right? But when they see their distribution graphs, they get a little bit crazy, right? About losing a point here or there. Disable comments on announcements. Yep. The announcement is from me to them, and that's it. I don't want to have a discussion on that. Sadly, I don't have time. Some semesters I'm teaching 8 classes, and I'm facilitating trainings and doing course reviews and just craziness. So I just don't really have time for that. So I have to focus my attention and make it very specific. But you might like that. So you might want your announcements to be a place where they go to the announcement, and then as they click on it, it has a little box where they can comment. So they can comment, they can discuss. So maybe that's something you want to do, and I definitely encourage you to do so. You have here like some sort of image. It happens to be of my campus and where my office is physically. The session and the dates, because oftentimes students have these late start courses, or they're really not sure when the last day is. So I put that right in there. This course is an 8-week course. I mentioned that I don't have the wherewithal to have a homepage for every week. But what I do is I come in, I change this welcome button, the start here button. I change it so that now it will take my students to week 3. But the first week, the button would just take them to the orientation module. They have a link to the syllabus, a link to the office hours, a reminder here to open every item within the module so they can unlock new modules for themselves, a little link to how to set notifications, and then all of the help support stuff is here. I also have it later on in the syllabus, but I think it's important to have it right here. Now, it's 7 o'clock, so I don't want to hold you past our time here. Anybody who feels that you need to leave, please, you're definitely more than encouraged to leave. Anybody who wants to stay and either ask questions or share any information, then I'm happy to stay open for a little longer. Having said that, I'm going to stop record here, just so that you don't feel that you're going to miss out on anything.